Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 exciting, talented, and clever players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Shappi Khorsandi, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth, and seated beside him, we welcome someone who's never played the game before. He's very nervous, but I'm sure he's going to do well. Wakeman, will you please welcome all 4 of them? Thank you. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject which I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in London, and we're going to begin the show with Paul Merton. Who better? Paul. Oh, here's an interesting subject. Dear listener, tell us something about that subject in this game starting now.
Radio is a wonderful medium, isn't it, dear listener? As I speak to you via this microphone and coming out of your loudspeaker, one could imagine that I was just speaking for you, dear listener. Whether you be having a bath or driving a truck across the desert somewhere.
Rick challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Yeah,
You've got a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, and there are 44 seconds available. Dear listener, starting now.
Dear listener are the words I used to use when I had my very first radio show in America. The reason I used the words dear listener was because I felt after a short period of time that I only had one. A man who lived somewhere in Croydon who couldn't hear anyway because I was in the United States of that country that I mentioned before, that I daren't mention again because somebody...
Well, it was a repetition of the word mention.
Well,
No, I mustn't mention, so I won't mention.
Sadly. Yeah, we couldn't let that one go. So, Paul, correct challenge. There are 19 seconds still available, and you've got a point, of course, for correct challenge. You take over the subject. Dear listener, starting now.
The British Broadcasting Corporation was founded in 1922, and from that day onwards, the... I say British again.
I know. Giles.
Very hard.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes.
Really?
You have 11 seconds, and you have the subject. Dear listener, starting now.
Dear listener, you might like to know that for Christmas I received a wonderful book entitled My Life in Comedy by Nicholas Parsons. It is a born classic, full of limpid prose and wonderful stories.
Sarah, I was hoping you weren't going to blow quite so soon and let him go on a bit. I was enjoying what he was saying. Thank you for the compliment, Giles. Anyway, you were speaking as the whistle went, and that means you get an extra point, and you're in the lead at the end of the round. Giles, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, gosh, yes, very topical. How bankers could restore their reputation. Have you any concrete ideas on that subject? If so, give them to us. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
How bankers could restore their reputation. I think of 2 possible scenarios. One is mass suicide. This could be easily affected by the bankers taking an aeroplane, Ryanair, to Frankfurt, getting out, in fact, in Zurich, and going to the clinic, which specializes in terminating the lives of people who really are no longer wanted on the planet. These are terrible, terrible.
Yeah, if you're going to make a point, this is what happens.
Repetition of terrible.
Yes, when the passion gets there, you repeat.
I'm not very quick on this buzzer. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, try it, darling. Let's see if it's working all right.
There we
Yes,
are.
it's a lovely green one
I
coming
hesitate when I press the buzzer. That's the problem.
Well, let's give you a bonus point because you did manage to press it the right way. Paul, you had a correct challenge. We know what it was. Repetition of terrible, and there are 31 seconds. Tell us something about how bankers could restore their reputation starting now.
Bankers could restore their reputation by buying copies of Nicholas Parsons' autobiography called My Life as a Straight Man in various comedy shows over the years, where our esteemed chairman doesn't waste an opportunity to tell us what a wonderful career he's had, even though most of it has passed many of us by. It is there in black and white.
Oh, Giles, you've challenged.
Deviation in every possible sense.
every possible sense.
Particularly the last bit about the glories of Nicholas's career passing us by. We have relished every moment.
Gyles, you've got the correct challenge. I had to give you a bonus point as well, actually. But... and you still have 11 seconds. How bankers...
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Have you just decided that you have had a wonderful career? And that's why you've gone against me?
No.
No?
Just because Gyles said I had, so I took it Gyles' point rather than yours.
But I just wonder whether your famous impartiality, for which you've been well known for several minutes now, whether you're the right person to judge whether your book is fantastic or not, you see.
I'm not talking about my book.
Oh, you're not?
I'm talking about my career.
Oh, your career?
Yes.
You've had a career as well as write a book? I withdraw my challenge.
Anyway, you've got the title wrong.
Say what?
The title is called...
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I did actually dedicate a copy to you. And you actually gave it...
Apparently I owe them money. I don't know how that works out.
And you also very kindly gave an endorsement, which is on the front.
Did it say anything when I'm drunk?
I do think you should know that I did see Gyles take the book into Oxfam on the way here. I'm not sure how much you got for it.
I think you're picking up the vibes that if you insult the chairman, you're going to do well.
No, I'm just trying to be
certainly
honest.
praising the chairman seems to pay dividends, doesn't it?
I went into the shop and I paid £100 for it.
That's why I took it in the first place, yeah.
I don't believe you.
I went into Foyles, the bookshop, and bought it, and the man behind the counter started weeping. He says, "This makes every other book redundant." Is that worth a bonus point?
Yes, all right. Give them all a bonus point. Gyles, you've got a correct challenge. You get a point for that. And you have how bankers could restore their reputation. 11 seconds starting now.
What bankers should do, in fact, is take up football, because we don't object to Wayne Rooney earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, but apparently when bankers do so, we are furious.
So Gyles, once again, was speaking as the whistle went, and when that happens, he gets an extra point. So he's increased his lead at the end of that round, and Rick Wakeman, we'd like you to begin the next round. On home ground here, a rock and roll lifestyle. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Looking back at old press cuttings from the 60s and 70s, I realised that I truly did have an extreme rock and roll lifestyle. The tragedy is, I can't remember it. I have to look at the things that were written in the Daily Express, the Mail, the Mirror, not...
I don't think it counts. Sorry, it's Shappi, Khorsandi here.
Yes.
Is it... He said the a lot, but I feel bad now because that's the name of the newspapers. He not say the.
Well, darling, we don't bother to
I
challenge on the...
nitpick. I nitpicked at someone who's new to the game. I'm a monster. Yeah, and I have to live with myself.
No, you didn't. It wasn't an incorrect challenge, but it was a challenge that we don't usually indulge in.
Yes, I understand that.
If they say the or the 2 or 3 times, but if we went on saying the all the way through, then I think so give her a point for a good attempt. And you have a point if you're interrupted.
Nicholas, I love you and your book.
And right, 40 seconds available. A rock and roll lifestyle. Still with you, Rick, starting now.
I read in one magazine that I used to have wild orgy parties at my house. Again, I can't recall any of them, except that we used to play a lot of darts and snooker on my snooker table.
Challenge, yes.
Repetition of snooker.
Yes. Where else could you play your snooker except on your snooker table? Oh, I suppose you could if you're drunk. Do it anywhere. So, Gyles, you've got 26 seconds, and you tell us something about your, well, not your, but a rock and roll. A rock and roll lifestyle. Starting now.
Oh, Nicholas, how little you know. My rock and roll lifestyle is incredible. All right, it is only a white van, and I have just one driver, but I did meet a Latvian girl who was ready to come on board for a few minutes to give me a bit of a rub-down. So I felt that was a start. And then I have been experimenting with drugs.
Paul's challenge.
Well, so far, it's not a rock and roll lifestyle, is it? Some Latvian woman in the back of a van.
No.
Rick told me that's how he began, and I'm just sort of trying to work my way up, if you'll pardon the expression.
No,
You can't work your way up a Latvian girl in a van. Because you haven't got the headroom. So...
I agree with you. I think, yes, deviation. I mean, that's hardly rock and roll, that. No. If it is, I'm rather sorry for you, Gyles. I mean...
It's my pathetic rock and roll lifestyle, but it is my rock and roll lifestyle.
Well, it's not what people consider a rock and roll lifestyle, just to have a Latvian girl in the back of a...
There's got to be more than that. That's not why Bruce Springsteen picked up the guitar, is it? Because he wanted to have an affair with a Latvian woman in the back of a white van.
Look, at my age, I'm very grateful.
If you can get into the van, you must be grateful. Never mind what happens after that.
Paul, I agree with you. You had a correct challenge. 7 seconds are still available. You tell us something about a rock and roll lifestyle, starting now.
Well, it was back in the cabin in 1961, and I was playing with the rest of the boys, and suddenly...
Shappi, challenge.
I'm not sure what the challenge is, but that's not your real voice. I thought that might be deviation from yourself.
Yeah.
It is deviation from his normal voice.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But there's nothing in the rules which says you can't use a different voice if you're talking on the subject, you see.
Fair enough.
Paul gets a point from being interrupted. A rock and roll lifestyle. 4 seconds, Paul, starting now.
I remember I was in one of the very first supergroups, Emerson, Lake, Palmer and Merton.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. He's now equal with Gyles Brandreth in the lead, and they're 3 points ahead of Rick Wakeman and Shappi Khorsandi, who are equal in second place. Shappi, we'd like you to start the next round, and the subject is my best impression. Can you tell us something about my best impression? 60 seconds starting now.
My best impression was probably of Margaret Thatcher when I was 7 years old. I used to do her at parents' dinner parties where they dragged me out of bed and say, for God's sake, come and enter the guests? Come and entertain the guests.
Gyles, challenge.
Little hesitation followed by repetition of the phrase enter the guest.
Also,
and then entertain the
I
guest.
deviated from my moral code.
No, I think you were so entertained by what you said, you dried yourself up. I mean,
Did I?
Yes.
I think it's more like I've got asthma and I haven't got my
Do
inhaler
your
with
Margaret
me.
Thatcher for us for a moment, come on.
No, the thing is about my Margaret Thatcher impersonation, it was really funny when I was 7. At 37, not quite so. Exactly, you see? That just died.
Correct challenge. My best impression, 43 seconds starting now.
My best impression, let me demonstrate, and you may be the judges of this. Oh, now I'm attempting to do... And now I'm attempting to do somebody quite different. But here...
Sorry. The reason the audience laughed then, listeners, was I was so overcome with his foul impersonations that I spilt my water on the table. And there's water... Shappi, you challenged her before I spilled
Yes,
my
I
water.
felt that Gyles was attempting twice.
Correct. Repetition of attempting.
Yes.
Yes, because it said you gave 2 impressions. It wasn't your best impression. You never established which one was.
No.
So...
Could you be giving us a clue as to who those people were?
No. If I get back in the game, possibly.
OK. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Shappi, you had a correct challenge. So you had the subject,
think
my
I spotted
best
Lord
impression,
Hall.
and you have 33 seconds starting now.
My other best impression is of a Yorkshire Terrier, and that goes like this. I would do more, but I'm not sure if barking would count as repetition. I've always been quite good at impersonating people that...
Rick, you challenge.
Thank you. I was just, for the listeners at home, I was doing the face of a sad Yorkshire Terrier.
And Rick, you came in first.
I feel like a Rottweiler now. Sorry.
The audience you haven't endeared yourself to the audience with that challenge, no?
No, I'm
They
sorry.
wanted to go. But it doesn't matter. What is your challenge?
There was a sort of hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Yes, there
It's
was,
a pity.
yes.
So, Rick, you have my best impression, and you have 21 seconds starting now.
My best impression is of 2 monkeys in the bath. When one of them goes, ooh, 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 and the...
All I'm saying is if I didn't bark more than once...
No, darling, you don't need to say any more. There was a repetition of ooh.
It's one word, Nick. Ooh.
No, you said ooh, ooh.
Nicholas, it's not Rick's fault if that's what the monkey said.
No, but if the monkey repeated itself, it's repetition, because he was reproducing
Well, take the
what
point off
monkey
the
said.
monkey. He He's nearly a standby. He's merely an observer telling us what happened.
No, I mean, I got to be fair to Shappi. She had a correct challenge, and Rick interrupted her, and the audience went, ooh. Like monkeys. So they want Shappi to have it back again, and it's justice now. It's fair enough.
My heart's in my mouth.
Yes.
Nicholas, you are on song tonight, can I say? It's like the wisdom of Solomon falling from you. I may be chipping in again in a moment, by the way.
That is all. I enjoyed that. Right, 13 seconds available, Shappi, on my best impression starting now.
When I did Margaret, I used to...
Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I repeated
Repetition of Margaret.
Yes, you used to mention Margaret
See,
before.
I thought about that as well. You know, I was quiet in the first, but I thought, no, if I don't say Margaret Thatcher, but Margaret instead, that'll be really clever. But it's
No, it
two
wasn't
separate
very
words,
clever,
aren't
no,
they?
no.
Also slightly over-familiar, I felt, you know.
I knew you'd think that. I knew the minute I mentioned Margaret Thatcher, you'd start getting what she's going to say.
She was just trying to get out of repeating something just a minute, and failed. So, Paul, correct challenge.
failed.
You
You
have
have to use that
10
word.
seconds. My best impression starting now.
In the film Kind Hearts and Coronets, Alec Culligan displays the part of a vicar, and he says,
The view from my west window has all the exuberance of Chaucer with none of the concomitant crudities of the period.
Rick challenge.
I couldn't understand a word he said. So he could well have repeated hundreds of words, because I didn't... I mean, you just said it going like this all the time.
he's doing my act.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to judge on, because it was a little incoherent, but it was a good impression. It was the best impression, and I don't think he actually repeated any words. So, Rick, I think, to be fair, I give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, but, Paul, it wasn't a correct challenge, so... and you've got
That's
only
an
half...
impression rather good, that way. I like that.
Pure Frankie Howard, wasn't it? Ooh, misses. Right. Half a second, Paul, for you on my best impression starting now.
I come all the way from Great Portland Street.
So Paul Merton speaking again as the whistle went again. That extra point has increased his lead a little at the end of the round, and he begins the next round. Paul, the subject's an old-fashioned phrase that's not so often used nowadays, but the price of milk. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
It's one of those things that they ask celebrities, do you know what the price of milk is? Now, I don't often go out and buy a pint of milk individually on its own. It is part of a shopping list, but I would hazard the guess the price of milk is possibly round about 45p a pint. If you buy it by the litre, of course, the price comes down.
Rick, challenge.
No, forget it, because you can use the word price, can't you? Because it's in the...
Yes, it's
in
on the
title.
card.
Yes.
You can repeat the words on the card individually or in the phrase. Bad
I
luck.
hang my head in shame.
No. But what happens is Paul gets another point because he was interrupted. And there are 42 seconds for the price of milk, Paul, starting now.
Look into a cow's eyes when it's being milked. See the pain, the heartbreak, nostalgic for the hills of Devon, and then say to me that the pint of milk you have is worth... Oh, I said pint
Just,
twice.
yes.
2 pints.
Two
Two
pints, yes.
yes,
Very good.
yes. Actually, if you look into a cow's eyes and it's being milked, it's got great joy and satisfaction.
Done a lot of that, have you?
Not much, but I've been on farms enough to see they are relieved, they're happy.
Are they?
Getting rid of the weight. And,
Are you sure they're not just thrilled to see you?
Nicholas's book is a favourite down on the farm.
Giles!
There might be bovine Gyleses adore you from afar.
Now, come on, let's get on with the show. 30 seconds, Giles. You had a correct challenge. The price of milk, starting now.
The price of milk, who cares? It is a killer, rich in cholesterol, fat, revolting to look at, and indeed consider whence it has come. Sloshing about initially in a bucket. The idea is revolting, and to consume this...
Shappi challenge.
I think you said revolting twice.
In another game, I said.
In another
No, but it's
conversation.
complete
maybe.
deviation, isn't it? I mean, it's the staff of life in many ways. I mean, babies
You
are fed
may
on milk.
disagree. You may be a milkaholic. I am not.
No,
I'm against milk.
I don't like milk, but I will defend the fact that everybody drinks milk.
Not everybody does drink milk. Some of us don't because of the price of milk. I was just getting to that point.
Babies are fed on milk alone when they're very small.
It's a rubbish book, ladies and gentlemen. A rubbish book.
If you don't like milk, Nicholas, why do you look in cows' eyes?
Because I'm on the farm and I'm looking at them. I'm interested. I'm interested in everything. And there's a cow being milked, and he's so placid. I'm thinking, oh, that's so nice.
Sorry,
Right, where were we?
We were talking about you looking into a cow's eyes with love.
No. Who challenged you?
It was an invalid challenge, and I was
On you,
about to
yes.
be given the subject
yes.
again.
No. You were challenged, and I disagreed with what you said. Who challenged? Was it?
It was me. It was me.
I
Yes,
agree with you.
I'm just
Deviation.
wondering-
Right, Don, you've got the subject, don't
Have
worry.
I?
Right. The price...
Bread and milk is all you're on now, Nicholas, face it.
When I was at boarding school, if you were ill, you were put in the sanatorium and just fed on bread and milk. She was an absolute harridan, the matron. I was about to use another word, but it was...
You said cow, didn't you?
I know. Yeah. She was worse than that, right. She was a bitch. There we
You'll
are.
never see her again.
So, Shappi, we give you that one correct challenge. The price of milk, 12 seconds, starting now.
The price of milk is not to be confused with the price of fish, which is what people say when they want to say that's not got anything to do.
Giles challenge.
Repetition of say.
Yes, you had say twice, my darling.
I see.
Right, yes, right. So you've got it back, Giles. You needn't look so piqued about it. The fact that you lost it before, but you don't usually lose it. 6 seconds are available. The price of milk, Giles, starting now.
Politicians are frequently asked what is the price of milk in the hope of catching them out as being ignoramus and not familiar.
Right. So Giles Brandreth was then speaking as the whistle when gained that all-important extra point. He's now back equal in the lead with Paul Merton, and Shappi, Khorsandi and Rick Wakeman are still equal in second place, following them a few points behind. Rick Wakeman, would you begin the next round? Through my telescope. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
On my 16th birthday, my parents bought me a telescope, which I took to my bedroom and pointed out the window at the house opposite, where I knew a very pretty young lady would be there in the evening getting ready for bed. I looked through and to my horror discovered she wore the same underwear as me. This came as such a shock because I thought I was the only person with a red something.
So, Giles, you were first to
Well,
challenge.
there was hesitation at the end of what was, frankly, 30 seconds of pure deviation. The man is a pervert. His parents give him this wonderful instrument, and what does he do? Oh, I'm...
He sticks it out the window.
Yeah, exactly. This is the rock and roll lifestyle, is it? Oh, dearie me. Give me the back end of a cow anytime.
Charles, 25 seconds on Through My Telescope, starting now.
As the saying goes, people who live in glass houses should undress in the basement in order to involve the prying toms across the road from...
I dropped off there. What was that word in the middle of all there? There was a sort of like a... I mean, so much of it is so similar that after a while you just listen to it going out on the radio. But, I mean...
It was the prying toms, he said.
Prying toms?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear that. You're nearer than I am.
I know.
Isn't it peeping toms?
Yes,
Yeah,
but I didn't... I'm coming on to peeping, didn't want to repeat it, you see.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
Another point to you, Giles. Through My Telescope, and 16 seconds, starting now.
Through my telescope, I love to look up at the Milky Way to see that glorious chocolate in the stars. There it is, alongside my Mars. Pluto, a dog, is up there. And then the belt, Orion, like on a dolphin's back, is filling the heavens with joy.
Paul challenge.
Well, it's about the belt. He referred to the belt. But then he did say Orion's belt. So
That's right, yes,
but I
all
think
right.
I'm so...
Incorrect
so, yeah,
challenge.
yeah.
Right, Through My Telescope, still with you, Giles, and only 1 second to go. Starting now.
Patrick Moore is one of the...
So Giles Brandreth was then speaker of the whistle, went, gained that extra point. So as we move in the last round, Giles Brandreth is in the lead, and he's 3 or 4 ahead of Rick Wakeman, who's 1 ahead of Paul Merton, and he's 4 or 5 ahead of Shappi Khorsandi. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject is page 3. Tell us something about page 3. That didn't go down very well, did it? They're obviously a much more cultural lot. 60 seconds starting now.
Quite often, page 3 in a book is where you put the author's name. And if you're looking to buy some books this year, I can recommend none more than Nicholas Parsons' Guide to the British Countryside. His chapter on cows is absolutely astonishing. Bovine love, it's called amongst the philosophers. And what he does is he approaches the udders on this particular animal. From behind, he whispers in their ear and says, "Would you like to be milked?" Who buzzed?
Rick, where are you challenged?
Physically impossible. If you approach from behind, whisper in the ear.
Yeah. Well, you don't stop. You approach from behind, you whisper in the ear.
Oh, you carry on
You
round.
keep going.
I beg your pardon.
It's a new thing I've invented called walking. You just keep going.
I'm sorry, I haven't...
Everybody's doing it.
I haven't read the book, you see.
No,
I do apologise.
You should see the line drawings.
No, it's quite logical what he's saying.
Yeah.
So it's an incorrect challenge. Paul,
Yeah, exactly.
29 seconds on page 3, starting now.
As Oscar Wilde nearly said, the love that dare not moo its name. Heifers are the most beautiful of creatures. When you see their 4 legs walking towards you, a little glint in their eye, you think to yourself, I'm in with a chance tonight. And if you're wearing a mask, which looks like the chairman of this marvellous...
Giles, challenge.
We've come so far from page 3. So far, I know we've been around the cow, we've been up the udders. We've virtually been to Orion and back. But page 3, we lost a long time ago.
To be honest, I'd completely forgotten that was the subject. I wrote it down as well.
And to be honest, Paul, we didn't mind.
No.
Right. So we have got a long way from page 3. So, Giles, I have to give it to you. I would like Paul to carry it on, because we all know it. But, to be fair, within the rules of just a minute, you have a correct challenge. You have 11 seconds. Page 3, starting now.
This subject may have been chosen because recently marked the 40th anniversary of the page 3 girl in one of our more popular and lurid newspapers. Photographs in the early days taken by a friend of mine called Beverly Goodway.
Well, what a somber way to bring the show to an end, but Shappi did very well, because she does contribute greatly, and she's very attractive as well. And, but she did finish in 4th place, very strong. But in... Actually, she was in 3rd place, because equal in 2nd place are Rick Wakeman and Paul Merton, but out in the lead, just ahead of them, was Gyles Brandreth. So we say, Gyles, this week, you are our winner. So we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only remains to say thank you to these 4 fine and exciting and pleasurable players of the game, Paul Merton, Shappi, Khorsandi, Rick Wakeman and Gyles Brandreth. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. We're grateful to our producer, Talusha Gilani, and we are grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre in Broadcasting House for cheering us on our way. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Right, hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the show 4 delightful, literate, humorous players of this game. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock. And seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Marcus Brigstocke. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Thank you. Beside me, Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And once again, I'm going to ask these 4 players to speak on the subject that I give them. Do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And we begin the show this week with Sheila Hancock. Oh, a rather erudite subject. Hope over expectations. Ooh, yes, difficult. Right, Sheila, 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Well, speaking personally, I would always rather have hope over expectations. Hope has something winsome and unfinished about it, whereas expectations is somewhat didactic. England expects every man should do his duty. Well, if I'd been one of the 100 people on the Victory, I probably would have turned round and said, no, I won't. If, on the other hand, the word hope had occurred in that phrase, I might have thought, well, good old Horatio, I'll have a go. Because hope springs eternal. Without hope. You can become depressed. People have expectations of you all the time, and you feel like a failure. I hope that I will win this game, but the expectation of the audience and my fellow panelists is that I probably won't, because my past history proves that many times I have not succeeded.
Marcus, you pressed your buzzer.
There was a small deviation. You described us as panellers rather than panellists, which would suggest that we were about to beat some panels into shape.
I think we all knew that she
Paul's
meant
made panels.
panelists.
Yes, the thing is, I knew that she meant panellists, but I think the point of the game, somewhat.
I think you are being a little bit pedantic.
No, go on,
again.
give it
Yes,
to
yes,
me.
yes.
How many more minutes?
So easy to misjudge it, isn't
How
it?
many more seconds?
You've already gone for 48 seconds.
Have I?
Yes.
And I spoiled it.
So I think, in fairness and justice, I've given Sheila the benefit of the doubt on
Quite
this
right.
occasion. I will try and give it to you sometime later, Marcus.
I wouldn't.
No. 12 and a half seconds, Sheila. Hope over expectations starting now.
Now the expectation that I will win this round is
Sue
our
challenge.
win.
Repetition of win.
Yeah,
Well,
go
we
on
did
then,
talk
you
about
can have
winning
that.
before, yes. Your flow was interrupted and you didn't pick it up again. What a pity. But 10 seconds are still available for you, Sue, on hope over expectations starting now.
The phrase hope over expectation adequately describes all of the relationships I've had to date. In fact, the key and single factor in the collapse in each and every one of them is me.
All right. So Sue was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. She's now one ahead of Paul and the others, and there's Sheila, and it's Marcus' turn to begin. Marcus, here's a subject for you because you do a lot of work with the news and sending it up and everything. But we've got the subject of 24-hour news for you. 60 seconds starting now.
The trick with being a 24-hour news broadcaster is to keep talking and try to avoid repetition, deviation and hesitation, because that will really upset people. The problem for many of these reports...
Paul, challenge.
Well, yeah, I think it's deviation, you see, because Marcus is saying there that one of the things you can't do is repetition. Of course, 24-hour news is all about repetition. It's the same thing over and over again until something vaguely new...
What he was trying to convey was that...
Oh, this is the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
is it?
It's begun.
I know it is repetitious in that sense, but he was trying to convey that
Yes.
you do keep going with news.
Yes, without repeating yourself. That's right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right.
Or deviating and going into, say, gardening.
Yeah.
He has the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
He continues with 24-hour news. 47 seconds available, Marcus, starting now.
Today, the Minister for not wearing a tie performed a spectacular U-turn as he left his house wearing a strand of silk. Is the...
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of wearing.
Yes, too many words.
yes, of course.
24-hour news, Paul, starting now.
I was in holiday in Italy once, and the only television station you could pick up in English was Well, I can't tell you what the station was, actually. CNN.
Yeah.
Repetitious CNN, so I said station instead.
You said station.
I've been playing this game for years, you know. Like years I've been playing this game.
Oh, right. Sue, you challenge first.
Yes, hesitation as he realised he was about to double N.
Yes,
And,
right.
yeah.
Sue, 32 seconds for 24-hour news starting now.
I love American rolling news, where you get people called Chad Thadmeyer and Susan Wolfstein, who look earnestly into the camera. He's 105 years old, she's 21, pert with enormous hooters and measurements I would kill for. They've nothing to say and fill the time mindlessly conjecturing what might happen if news had occurred. Imagine, Sam, if something had actually gone on.
Sheila, challenge.
Didn't we have Sam before? The name Sam?
Before she was called something, I can't remember what she was called. But
She wasn't called Sam.
Susan.
Was she? Oh, right.
I'm now looking desperately to the audience.
Yeah.
All of my four
Yeah, you're
eyes
right, my
trained in
darling.
desperation.
No. It was Susan.
Was it?
Yes,
Right, okay.
So,
My
Sheila,
mistake.
incorrect challenge. Sue, you still have the subject. You have 8 seconds. 24-hour news starting now.
I particularly like the royal correspondence on 24-hour news.
Marcus, challenge.
Well, that's deviation from the truth. No one likes them. I mean, once the news gets going and you realise no one's got anything to say, then they cut to the royal correspondent, who has even less than that.
Marcus, she wasn't deviating within the rules of just a minute.
Oh, I see.
But the audience enjoyed your interjection, so I will give you a bonus point because they enjoyed it. Sue gets a point because she was interrupted. 4 seconds, Sue. 24-hour news starting now.
Witchell hanging around Balmoral, wondering what pants Kate Middleton will be wearing come April.
Right. So Sue again was speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. And others in the round, she's now got a strong lead ahead of all of the others.
And I haven't even had my benefit of the doubt.
No, you may. But you do start the next round.
Oh, OK.
And it is emergency stop. You don't have many of those in this game, but here's the subject. Talk on it if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
The emergency stop is one of the key manoeuvres in the British driving test. I know, I failed it 7 times. My instructor took to calling me Vera because I veered all over the road. How hilarious. He would slam the clipboard down on the front of the dashboard, and I would try to manoeuvre my legs one after the other to break...
Paul Challenge.
Well, I'm not sure. I was going to say it was repetition manoeuvre, but I think it was manoeuvres and manoeuvre, actually. So
yes.
I was going to say repetition, but I don't think it's right.
I don't think it's right either. No. So an incorrect challenge, Sue.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm still on emergency stops?
Yeah.
Yes. 38 seconds.
Here we go.
Emergency stop, starting now.
It's left me with an incredible fear of men moving...
Slight hesitation, I thought, didn't you?
I don't think, actually, she did hesitate.
No. Give her the... No, you're right. Give her the benefit of the doubt. I think that's right.
I am going...
Yeah, absolutely.
She wanted a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And you've got your benefit.
Not on this topic, Nicholas. Is the benefit of the doubt a reversible situation?
If you can't do the emergency stop, you're certainly not allowed to reverse.
No.
So you have the benefit of the doubt. You have another point. You have 35 seconds. Emergency stop, starting now.
The point of the emergency stop is to brake sharply so you avoid things like kittens. I've never come across a small cat...
Marcus Challenge.
That is a deviation within the highway code.
Absolutely,
it is very clear that if you see an animal in the road, you're absolutely not to brake. In fact, I think they advise you to accelerate in order to hit the beast. But you're not supposed to brake for an animal, so it's a...
You're quite right. You mustn't brake for an animal. No,
You mustn't brake for an animal? What, just even a
not.
little kitten in the road? You
A little kitten in a moped.
Darling, this...
Coming across the traffic lights.
This is emergency stop.
Help me. Did you hear that kitten, Nicholas? Help me. Did you hear the kitten now?
You put your... You put your...
What are you going to do with that little kitten?
Massive eyes, don't crush them.
That little kitten's asking you for help, Nicholas.
Right. Well, what I'm going to say is you put your brakes on and try to slow down to avoid it, but you do not do an emergency stop because it could cause...
But I'm just a kitten.
Yeah.
There are different rules for rhinoceroses.
Well, that is, you just come to... But, Sue, I mean, you are at least last person to be kitten-like, really.
I've got a softer side, Nicholas, as well you know. Come on, remember, Stevenage last year.
I know.
Stevenage?
Not
Is
you
this
as
true,
well.
Nicholas?
Well, if Sue says so, her memory's better than mine.
You cad, you told me you'd remember forever.
Marcus, correct challenge. Emergency
Hallelujah.
stop. With you, 28 seconds starting now.
The shortest and most alarming telegram I ever received simply read, "Emergency stop." I had no idea who it was from. I simply knew that something terrible had happened and I must leap into action as fast as I possibly could. So I got inside my car and sped off. Unfortunately for me, a small child ran in front of the vehicle and I confused him for a kitten, so I accelerated.
Paul, new challenge.
I pressed the emergency stop. Well, I didn't know where we were going with this.
No.
Deviation.
Why?
What? Why?
He said the small child, and he didn't know whether to do an emergency stop or not. He did enjoy what you said, Marcus. It was very, very funny.
Oh, good.
But Paul, you have a correct challenge. A point to you. 4 seconds. Emergency stop starting now.
An emergency stop is indicated such as this. The driver says to you, I want this emergency...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's still behind Sue Perkins in the lead. Then it's Marcus Brigstocke and Sheila Hancock in that order. Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, the subject. Lovely one. Rubbish. Tell us something about rubbish in this game, starting now.
The world is creating tons upon a lot of... What happened then?
Sue?
Hesitation?
There was a hesitation.
Was there?
Yeah. You didn't get out the alternative word to rubbish. Sue, rubbish with you. 57 seconds starting now.
I love a good bin man. The way they turn up at the house at 5:30, whistling cheerily, as if that wasn't enough. I don't know what cheerily is, but possibly it's a derivation of the word cheer.
What it is repetition.
Well, yes, repetition. Cheerily. Paul, you got it back again, you see?
Didn't I?
You've got a point.
Yes.
You've got 48 seconds. You've got rubbish.
Yeah.
You haven't got rubbish, but the subject is rubbish. And you start now.
When I look at our chairman, Mr. Nicholas Parsons, and I think of the subject rubbish, I realise that he is completely incompatible with that particular theme. Rubbish is something that we associate with no longer needed. We throw it out of our house, deposit in our dustbins. It is to be gone. Is clutter rubbish that has yet to be thrown out, I wonder? We look at our lives and...
Sheila, challenge.
Have we had thrown out before?
Yes, Sheila. Have a correct challenge.
Sure.
And
really?
you have 25 seconds on rubbish starting now.
It's very complicated throwing out the rubbish these days because there's so many different colour bags. There's orange ones for paper and tins. There's green for garden stuff.
Sue, challenge.
Slight hesitation?
Yeah, there was.
Pondering the nature of the green. Was that
green for garden
Green
stuff?
is for paper.
I thought it was the beginning of a song. It
It
sounded
was
lovely.
mellifluous. I'll give you it was.
So, Sue, you got in on rubbish and got in on rubbish. I love that. And 16 seconds starting now.
I try to recycle as much as possible and not put too much in the rubbish. Once I saw turtles, who Marcus would happily kill if in fact they crossed roads, then swirling in a midst...
Oh, Sheila, challenge.
Well, she was hesitating.
Yes, she was, yes. Got it back again. 6 seconds available. Rubbish starting now.
I once did a play at the Royal Court and somebody in the audience stood up and said rubbish, and I was so grateful because it absolutely was rubbish.
So Sheila Hancock was then speaking as it was when. Gained that extra point. She's now moved forward equal with Marcus Brigstocke in third place, just behind Paul, and then out in the lead still is Sue Perkins. And Sheila, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is celebrity spotting. 60 seconds starting. Oh, give you a chance to write it down, all right?
Yes, I have to have it done because if it goes to somebody else, I forget what it is if it comes back to me.
Very good
Getting
idea.
senile.
That's why the pad and paper in front of you.
Yeah.
Celebrity spotting, 60 seconds, Sheila, starting now.
Well, this is something I have done all my life. It started when I was in a show in the West End and I was madly in love with an actor called Paul Schofield. Also, a friend of mine who was gay was also enamoured.
Oh, dear. Sue, challenge.
Repetition of was also.
There was also there.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Also in love. Right. 48 seconds. Celebrity spotting, Sue, starting now.
I once hyperventilated in a supermarket on seeing Jeanette Cranky, and that's as close to as a celebrity spot as one would wish to get in normal gear, not the coquettish young schoolboy outfit we've come to know and admire her in. The flesh, a small Glaswegian woman man.
Sheila's
Small?
down. Yeah. Too small.
We had small before?
She's very small.
Yes. So, Sheila, well, listen, you got back in again on celebrity spotting, and there are 32 seconds available starting now.
And I discovered where this said actor used to go between the matinee and the evening
Sue,
show.
challenge.
Repetition of actor.
Yes, there was another actor, the other one, yes. Celebrity spotting with you, Sue, 29 seconds starting now.
It's strange when you see a celebrity in that you expect them to be somehow august and grandiose, but they're usually shuffling around in slippers with an open fly around Tesco Metro.
Sheila's challenge.
I don't think that's altogether true.
You tell that to Richard Madeley.
You've never done that, have you, Nicholas? You've never walked around and...
Well, I mean, at my age, sometimes you do forget to zip up sometimes.
Oh, Nick, too much information.
That would be a celebrity spot, though, wouldn't it, Sheila?
But as Bob Hope said when telling that gag, he said, the trouble is, it's when you forget to zip down.
Yes.
Yes, celebrity spotting with you, Sheila, and 18 seconds starting now.
In the 1950s, I was doing an LP at Abbey Road, and we came out and there was a pea super fog on, so we couldn't see in front of our hands. We had to go down the tube. And down amongst the crowd...
Oh, Paul Tallis.
Oh, sadly, repetition of down.
Yes, you went down
as
too
I
much,
said
my darling.
it was
Yes.
like an electric shock.
Was it?
Yeah.
Paul, you've got him with 5 seconds to go. Celebrity spotting starting now.
Celebrity spotting, well, I just look in the mirror and there I am. Well, who buzzed that? Who buzzed that?
Me.
Who buzzed then? Who buzzed then?
Sheila.
He
Outrageous.
was so pleased with himself. There was a long pause after Anne.
There was no long pause.
There was a long pause.
Rubbish.
There was.
I've come all the way from Great Portland Street to do this show.
They shouldn't have women on this show.
I should explain to our listeners, those are 2 phrases from the past, which Kenneth Williams used to use. And
Always
they have,
when I was
and
on
they
the
have
show. They
reprieved
shouldn't
them.
have women on this show.
Yeah.
That must have made you feel so welcome.
Right, so, Sheila, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Paul,
You
you looked in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's a celebrity spotting.
Here I am.
So overcome with your image and your thing. You couldn't do anything else but pause.
You've got no repetition, hesitation, deviation, or narcissism, apparently.
You're not allowed to bask.
You can do it whenever you want,
I can do it whenever I want.
but not in just a minute.
Not in just a minute.
Because it's pausing.
I can walk around Tesco's with my flies open, but I can't do it here.
It was you!
It was me, yeah.
Yeah.
Hanging around the delicatessen. That's you doing that. That's you doing that.
The images you create, Paul.
Yes.
And it's going around like a little ripple through the audience.
Yeah. So how long did I hesitate for?
You didn't start again. You stopped. You stopped.
So, Sheila,
You wait till you hear it.
You cleverly got in with 1 second to go.
That's Clement Freud's trick. I love that one.
But you're certainly playing the game with great shrewdness. Right, 1 second on celebrity spotting, Sheila, starting now.
Orson Welles.
So Sheila Hancock was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's now moved into 2nd place behind Sue Perkins, and she's 1 ahead of Paul Merton and 2 or 3 ahead of Marcus Brigstocke in that order. Well, of course it's that order, because that's the way I read it out. Marcus, will you begin the next round?
Yes.
Subject here is rulers. Tell us something about rulers in this game, starting now.
When I was a young man at school, I was beaten across the back of the legs with a ruler. Unluckily for me, the ruler in question was Louis XVI.
He repeated ruler, and it's rulers on the card.
Oh, that's forensic.
I'm getting
It's
there.
turning into that sort of programme, is it?
Right.
Well, listen, very shrewd.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So you...
I was pronouncing it with the silent S, as in avocado.
Don't worry, you'll get it back. I've got nothing to say about rulers.
Haven't you? We'll see. 53 seconds, starting now.
When I was at school, we used rulers to draw lines on the paper.
Paul Challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
Well, she said she had nothing to say on rulers.
Well, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
Do I get an extra point for him interrupting
That's
me?
right, darling.
Yeah, good.
Not an extra point. You get the point because you weren't interrupted. And 49 seconds, rulers are starting now.
To do our writing in.
Sue Challenge.
Slight hesitation?
Darling, you're getting too sharp for your own good.
Yeah, I lost myself then in
Yes.
my asthma of competitiveness.
Right, yes. Sheila, another point to you. Interruption, 47 seconds. Rulers starting now.
Elizabeth I, Charles I. Pathetic.
Of all the kings and queens you could have chosen
I
to
know.
follow.
I
Right.
got above myself, didn't I?
Marcus, you got in first, and there are 43 seconds available. Rulers starting now.
The best thing to use rulers for is to flick wet bits of paper at other boys, and that is how you get beaten across the back of...
Sue Challenge.
Repetition of beaten across the back.
Okay.
I know it's
Of course.
it's a painful memory, though.
Yes.
It's going to come back.
Repetition was the theme of the beatings, as I remember, on account of we had to count them out and then say thank you. Still, boarding school.
Yeah, those are the rules.
Good value.
Are you all right, Marcus?
No, I had a small seizure when I realised my parents didn't love me much.
36 seconds, Sue. Rulers starting now.
My favourite ruler is Marie Antoinette, who governed France for several years and was a much maligned historical figure. She was dragged from Austria as just a teenager and spent 3 weeks crossing the mountains to finally meet her boyfriend, Louis.
Paul Challenge.
So, did you say she was dragged from Austria?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what you did.
Literally dragged from Austria?
Well, she was in like a sedan chair, so it's a sort of semi-dragging. When they got tired, it felt like a drag.
Metaphorically speaking...
Oh, metaphorically speaking.
All the way from Austria.
Metaphorically
All
speaking,
the
she was
way
dragged all the way from Austria.
3 weeks it
in
took.
a sedan jet.
3 weeks it took.
Yeah, that's a long time,
It's
isn't
a
it?
long time.
Yeah.
Benefit of the doubt to Sue Perkins. Yes. And the audience agree? 19 seconds, rulers with you, Sue, starting now.
She yodeled all the way in grief. Just telling you the facts, Sheila. It's not me.
I'm quite
Paul
ready
Challenge.
to believe.
Did we have all the way before? She was
Yes,
dragged
she did all the way, yes. And I don't think she yodeled either.
I think she was metaphorically yodeling. Don't you?
No, you'll never let those sort of things lie, will you, Paul?
No, I don't know.
It was a yodel de coeur. That's what it was.
Rulers with you, Paul. 17 seconds starting now.
Lady Jane Grey had one of the shortest reigns of any English monarch, a matter of a few days. She was there used as a political...
Marcus Challenge.
Yeah, the sort of hesitation, really.
No, there wasn't.
Well, I felt there was, why I buzzed in. It was, I suppose, the change in rhythm when Paul went, she was there.
It was a change in rhythm.
Yeah. It sounded like he was
I wasn't really like
commentating
Murray
a horse
Walker,
race.
was I commentating?
Yeah, it was...
She was there in the final lap.
Right, Paul, you still have the subject. 9 seconds. Rulers starting now.
Henry VIII had 6 wives, and I shall take up the intervening time by telling you exactly their names. The first one was called Catherine of Aragon, and she...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and we are moving into the final round. I thought I'd get more reaction than that. I thought you'd like to know the situation as we go into the thing. Sue Perkins is still in the lead. She's a few points ahead of Sheila Hancock and Paul Merton, who are equal in second place. And then comes Marcus Brigstocke. And Sue, we would like you to begin the next round. Something in the news a lot. WAGs. Tell us something about WAGs in this game, starting now.
WAG stands for Wasted, Argumentative, Gossipy Slatterns. They're often seen around football pitches, not really understanding the rules of the beautiful game. The offside is no brook to their sensibility.
Sheila Challenge.
Is that a hesitation?
Dramatic embellishment.
No, I think she dragged the word out. I gave you the benefit of the doubt last time, Sheila. This time it goes to Sue. She still keeps the subject. WAGs, 45 seconds, Sue, starting now.
WAGs think a transfer window is something you get burgers out of at a drive-by at McDonald's. Their main preoccupation seems to be buying handbags. It's not a particular retail experience I'm familiar with. Nonetheless, they clutter up Rodeo Drive or wherever they might be in Madrid and some other places, following their beloved spouses as they kick.
Marcus Challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a deviation. I think the word beloved is overstating the relationship.
Marcus, a lovely challenge, but the thing is, that's the way Sue could see it.
Yes.
Some of them are genuinely in love.
Yes, they could be.
Look at their syrupy faces.
And they will say vocally that they are. I'm with my beloved.
They're like well in love, Marcus.
So, Sue...
Unless he gets moved to Portsmouth, then I'm not staying with him, no.
Oh, my days, no Portsmouth. No way, man.
So, Sue, another incorrect challenge for you, which gives you another point, and 25 seconds available. WAGs starting now.
The look is simple. Bouncy hair like they've just stepped out of a salon, and they have. That's all they seem to do. The fingernails manicured to the point of perfection, sparkling with cuticles that you can see your face in. Yes, I'm jealous. And everything that I say...
Sheila Challenge.
Repetition of yes?
Yes, there's many yeses.
And I think you're being a little cruel, Sue.
Well, no, that's why I said it comes from jealousy.
It's a little spiteful, if I may say so. I think both both of you are being a bit unfair.
Yes.
As I say, comes from a position of envy.
Very charmingly and very sensitively said, Sheila. Right, and you have the subject now with another point, of course. 9 seconds, wags starting now.
My cat wags his tail when he's angry. He looks at me and growls.
Paul, challenge.
Well, is repetition of he?
Yes, there was.
A bit like repetition of yes. Do you remember the one that Sheila just did? Do you remember?
No, yes, it's got 3 letters.
Do you remember
He's
how the
got
game's
2.
played later?
Oh, it's all going haywire.
Yeah.
4 seconds for you, Paul, on wags starting now.
When I look in the mirror, I think to myself, I'm a celebrity. Where's my wag? And there's you!
I'll give you the final situation. Marcus Brigstocke finished in 4th place.
Yes.
In 3rd place did Sheila Hancock with a magnificent 12 points. She was 3 points behind Paul Merton in 2nd place. But out in the lead was the incomparable Sue Perkins. So we say, Sue, you're the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, intrepid players of the game. Paul Merton, Sheila Hancock, Sue Perkins and Marcus Brigstocke. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She's blown that whistle most delicately after the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank Toulouse Gelani, who is our producer. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented and humorous players of this game. And seated on my right, there's Paul Merton and Liza Tarbuck. And seated on my left, there's Tony Hawks and Ross Noble. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I am going to ask them if they can speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me with the score. She's going to blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And we begin the show this week with Paul Merton. This is an interesting subject. On Valentine's Day, I received... On Valentine's Day, I received as a subject, think about it for a second, 60 seconds available, starting now.
On Valentine's Day, I received a charming gift from my wife. It was a Yorkshire Terrier, silver-plated, mounted on a cardboard box. And when you pulled its tail, magnificent Cole Porter songs emanated from its larynx. And it's such gifts as these that prove to me that my wife loves me dearly.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of my wife?
Yes, we can't have too much of Paul's wife. She's a lovely lady.
Whatever I say now, I might get into real trouble for us. I wonder where she was getting the money, but I won't say that.
Right. That's a correct challenge, Tony. So we give you the subject, give you a point for a correct challenge, and there are 44 seconds still available. On Valentine's Day, I received, starting now.
The parcel bomb was a surprise. However, in amongst the thousands of letters that arrived, and believe me, this isn't just boasting, although actually it is,
Paul challenge.
Was there a slight hesitation there?
Yes, he hesitated because he suddenly thought, my God, I can't be that conceited. Anyway, Paul, correct challenge. A point to you. You take back the subject. On Valentine's Day, I received 32 seconds available, starting now.
The love that is there in the world is in my beloved eyes as she looks to me and says, I shall be going to Nicholas Parsons' place now, and I shall return sometime in the middle of the night. You must trust me, my sweet.
Oh, dear. Ross challenge.
I'm glad the buzzer went, brought me back to reality.
Ross, you challenge, yes.
I think there might be hesitation.
Yeah, indeed there was, yes. He might hesitate after that. God knows what his wife's doing at the moment. So, Ross, we're all going to speak on this subject. I hope Lisa will get in soon. There are 17 seconds available with you, Ross. Got a point, of course. On Valentine's Day, I received, starting now.
If you send somebody a card with a heart on it, it's a beautiful gift. If you sent them an action...
Ah, Lisa got in,
If you
yes.
send.
Send,
If you
yes.
send.
Oh, yeah.
So, Lisa, you've got in, a point to you, 12 seconds available. We're all going to speak on this subject. On Valentine's Day, I received...
On Valentine's Day, I received the most beautiful box of chocolates. It was as big as a car roof and full of violet cream, strawberry, orange delights, marzipan, sent by my boyfriend who... These are creams.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Lisa Tarbuck, so she's in the lead at the end of that round. We've all got 1 point. Lisa's got 2. Tony, we'd like you to begin the next round, and I'm going to have trouble with this, I'm sure. Something that's in the news an awful lot. Do we all know what it means? Quantitative easing. An awful hush has gone over the audience. Tony, you're looking quite confident. Tell us something about quantitative easing in this game, starting now.
Whenever I have a quantity of anything, I try darned hard to ease it as much as I can. It might be a bag of potatoes. I'll place it down on the floor, say lovely soft words to it, set it at a comfortable way of living instantly.
Ross, you challenge.
Just a bit of hesitation.
A bit of
comfortable way
hesitation,
of
yes.
living.
I don't think I hesitated. It was rubbish, but I...
Well, you hesitated as you got the rubbish going.
Well, I thought I carried on in talking rubbish. It was deviation. I'd like to challenge myself for deviation.
Well, just so you know, I'm really happy to get this subject. Really happy.
That's what I thought. So 44 seconds available for you on quantitative easing, Ross, starting now.
Quantitative easing, as we all know, is the Cockney rhyming slang for sneezing. Many's the time you can go down to a market and hear those fellas, "Court blimey, governor, all night I've been quantitative easing. I've gone through so many tissues and no mistake in Mary Poppins. Oh, it's all over the top."
Oh, Tony, you challenged.
Repetition of
ooh.
The first time, the first I was ooh, but the first I was oh like that. See?
I don't think so, Ross. 25 seconds with you, Tony, on quantitative easing, starting now.
I do a lot of quantitative easing. I go down into the kitchen and make my own money. It's fantastic. A £20 note dries in 15 minutes if you use the right kind of hairdryer. Then you go out to the shops, buy things with it, return, make some more. I don't know why we don't
Ross, you challenge first.
Hesitation?
Yeah, we call that hesitation, a stumble. 8 seconds. Back with quantitative easing to you, Ross, starting now.
If I had a horse, I would call it quantitative easing and I would enter it into a race, possibly at Ascot or Epsom, or just...
So Ross, with other points in the round, including one for speaking as the whistle went, has now taken the lead at the end of the round. Lisa, we'd like you to begin the next round. My favourite cartoon. Will you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
The first cartoon that comes to mind is Top Cat, which was filled with wise guys and had a magnificent theme tune. I also rather enjoyed the classic Fred Quimby, Tom and Jerry.
Paul Tallis.
Well, this is a bit pedantic, I suppose, but the TV programme was called Boss Cat because the BBC didn't want to call it Top Cat because there was a popular cat food by that name in the shops. So that would be the name of the favourite cartoon rather than Top Cat because he was the character.
In America, what was it called?
Top Cat.
Yeah, thanks.
So if it's happened in America, it's true.
No, it wasn't.
That's been the history
she was
for the
referring
last
to the
few
American
years.
show, and she didn't actually qualify by saying that it was changed to Boss Cat when it came over here. So an incorrect challenge, still with you, Lisa. Another point, of course, my favourite cartoon, 49 seconds, starting now.
I also enjoyed the Flintstones.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of enjoyed.
Oh, yes, because you
Can
did
you
enjoy it
repeat
before, yes. When you were talking before, right.
How
So,
many
Tony, you
words?
got in with 47 seconds on my favourite cartoon, starting now.
Scooby-Doo was very good. He had these snacks that he was handed, and it made him terribly happy, and he'd do anything for those. It really was hours of fun to watch. It was 20 minutes long, but you could spool them together.
Paul challenge.
There's sort of hesitation, and Tony seems to be under the illusion that the programme is simply about somebody feeding a dog. But there was hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Paul. You have a correct challenge. You got my favourite cartoon, 34 seconds starting now.
My favourite cartoon, perhaps it's a Walt Disney Fantasia. There was indeed a remake of that very film called The Same Thing Too, and it was...
Ross, challenge.
It was called Fantasia 2000. Wasn't called Fantasia 2.
I was so busy trying not to say Fantasia. You're right. Yeah, it was called Fantasia 2000. He's right.
Yes, you're right.
Oh,
Well,
they made that many?
Yeah.
Wow.
25 seconds, Ross, on my favourite cartoon starting now.
Broadrunner would have to be my favourite cartoon. I love the way that he would paint a...
Paul challenge.
Well, it was hesitation.
There was hesitation, yes.
Because it wasn't him that painted, it was the coyote.
Yeah.
Fooling myself. How's a bird going to paint? It's ridiculous. Who thought that was an idea? It's ridiculous. There, I've challenged myself. I'm an idiot.
No, repetition of ridiculous.
Oh, OK, I'll have another point then.
No. Paul has the point for a correct challenge. 19 seconds. My favourite cartoon, Paul, starting now.
Fantasia's main...
Tony challenge.
Yeah, well, repetition of Fantasia.
Fantasia.
No, I said Fantasia's. The first time was Fantasia.
Yes, you did.
That's right.
Yes.
I've played the game before.
I think he led you into that one, Tony,
Well,
yes.
clever use of an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Almost violent.
It's not an easy word to unconsciously repeat.
No. Right, Paul, incorrect challenge. 18 seconds. My favourite cartoon starting now.
Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, with these nymphets gliding out of the water in time to the beautiful essayed composition that the German master had supplied back in the late 18th century. He was a man who died in the early 18th century, so that would have been impossible.
Tony, you challenge.
I told everybody, nobody knew.
Yeah, repetition of century.
Yes, it did, yes.
Brilliant.
You didn't have him for deviation on the century, but he told you, but nobody picked him up. Right, but Tony, you've got in with 1 second to go.
Oh, why was I so honest?
On my favourite cartoon starting now.
Scrappy!
Tony, you were speaking when the whistle went. Gain that extra point. You're equal with Ross in the lead, followed by Paul and Lisa. Only 1 point separating you all. And Ross, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a very personal subject here. Cravats. I'm not wearing one today. So can you tell us something about cravats in this game, starting now?
Cravats are a bit like a fat tie. That is the way I would describe them. I personally don't ever wear neck attire.
Paul challenged.
Hesitation, sir.
There was a hesitation, yes.
It's a long neck.
Yeah.
Paul, 50 seconds are available. You give us some information about cravats starting now.
Cravats have always been very popular with men of a certain age. When I look at our esteemed chairman here, Mr. Nicholas Parsons, he has been an extraordinary wearer of cravats over the years. A certain style, a touch...
Lisa
Or a
challenge.
piece of certain.
Yes, a
Oh,
certain,
yes,
certain
yes,
age and
yes,
certain.
yes, of course, yes. So you tell us something about cravats, Lisa. 37 seconds are available, starting now.
Cravats became popular in the 17th century after the 30-Year War, where the Serbo-Croats used to wear them as a part of their uniform. Little squares of silk and/or wool to keep their necks warm. The people that were fighting them brought the fashion back to London and Paris, and it became all the rage to wear them to, say, weddings or balls, or just to dandify yourself for a stroll with the missus. I like a cravat on a morning suit when you're going to watch your daughter be wed, perhaps, and the usual...
Tony challenge.
I think there's a repetition of perhaps.
Oh, yes. You did say
Come on,
that.
hands up, it's a game.
And anyway, you knew far too much about cravats.
I'm interested.
It was...
She'll be talking about the offside rule next, won't she, Tony?
Very good.
Well, Tony gets a point for a correct challenge, but we get...
Why can't a woman be more like a man?
We give a bonus point to Paul because we loved his interjection there on the thing. I mean, I think Lisa should have one for More Like a Man, to that other remark of hers.
Oh, you love
Very
a
apt
song,
and
don't
very
you?
so forth. 2 bonus points in 1 round. Never happened before. And but Tony, you've got a point for a correct challenge. You have cravats. You've got 5 seconds only, starting now.
Sometimes there are clubs that say you must wear a tie. What happens if you turn up with a cravat? Will that be allowed? No one...
I can tell you what happens if you turn up with a cravat at a club that says you must wear a tie. It happened to me, and they said it is not correct neckwear. You should be wearing, and I was fined.
You were fined?
Yes.
They still let you in just so they could get your money?
Yeah, that's right, yes.
That cost him 17 doubloons.
No, it's
Are
the
you
water.
allowed to reveal what club it was?
Yeah, it was the Water Rats because they like to make money for charity. It all goes to charity
it was
anyway.
a jokey fine.
It's a jokey fine. You were speaking when the whistle went, Tony. You got an extra point. You've now taken the lead, 1 ahead of all the others. And Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a lovely subject. One of my favourites, the big top. Tell us something about the big top in this game. 60 seconds starting now.
The first time I went to the Big Top, I suppose I was around 6 years old, and I was actually captivated to the very heart and soul of my being. The trapeze artist I wasn't particularly interested in. The clowns, however, these adult figures with ginger hair that went up the side of their heads, oversized boots, driving these impossible cars that shot strings of sausages out the exhaust pipe. I'd never seen grown-ups behaving like this before. Normally they said, eat those peas, otherwise we'll never be able to live in this house ever again. I'm not sure why they said that to me. It was just a way of getting me to have my favourite vegetable, I suppose, the big top.
Lisa challenge.
There was a few supposes.
Was there?
Yeah.
Oh, it might have been, yeah.
Yes. But,
Sadly, I don't know much about the big top.
Don't you? I empathise with you.
Well,
Same
I'm
age as
looking
me.
at them.
I was taken when I was 6,
Yeah.
and I've never looked back. It imbued me with the idea of becoming a performer.
Did it?
I've never lost it.
Yeah.
One day I
Lovely.
might make it.
Yeah. You're on the way.
Thank you, Lord. 23 seconds.
I'm just looking forward to hearing what bit of Serbia the Big Top originated.
Right.
There has to be a defender between you and the goal.
Right, Lisa, there are 23 seconds available. The subject's the big top. It's with you, starting now.
When I don't know what to wear of a morning and I'm frantically thinking, should I put a skirt on? No, generally I head towards the big top. It's a beautiful item that flares from the neck with a small ruff that's based from 17th century Paris.
Paul,
I interrupted, really. I feel sorry, it's such a miserable joke. I said, it sounded dangerous, flares from the neck, but...
so it was an incorrect
It
challenge.
was an incorrect challenge. It was.
So, Lisa, you get a point for that,
Yeah,
you see. So
absolutely.
it's all to your advantage.
OK.
And you've got a few seconds to think about it. The big top, 7 seconds, starting now.
It's got wonderful medieval sleeves that I can push several tissues up, which is always handy, and a pocket in the front for some nail clippers.
So Lisa, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's now taken the lead, 1 ahead of all the others. Tony, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject, a Shaggy dog story. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
You build people's hopes up and then let them down really badly. But enough of the coalition government. The Shaggy dog story is along these lines. Lots of detail going on and onwards.
The Fantasia lesson sunk.
Ross, he's played the game quite a lot. So, incorrect challenge, Tony. Another point to you, 44 seconds. A Shaggy dog story starting now.
Scooby-Doo wasn't necessarily a shaggy dog particularly, but Scrappy-Doo, his replacement in some ways...
Paul Chan.
Repetition of do. Scooby-Doo, Scrappy-Doo.
Scrappy-Doo.
One name.
I think it's all one name.
Do you not think it's
No,
hyphenated?
because Scrappy-Doo
not
was his
hyphenated.
nephew,
No.
so Scooby, the family name was Doo.
Yeah.
No, it was. Yeah.
Do you think it was, we must have the doos round to dinner?
Yeah.
And then
It's
somebody say,
very
no,
good.
don't bother, because they're cartoon characters.
Yeah, often you'd hear them say, we're having a do, get the do. Yeah. So it's Scrappy-Doo, Scooby-Doo.
So that was the
then,
family name then, was it?
Yeah, well, because he was his nephew,
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo, Scrappy-Doo,
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Doo.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Paul. And I will address the balance, if I can, later to you, Tony, and say you have 37 seconds on a Shaggy dog story starting now.
I disagree with Tony. I don't think there is always an element of disappointment at the end of a Shaggy dog story. It has to be told with a certain flair, though, bearing in mind that your listeners will get bored if there is too much extraneous detail. Some of the punchlines of these stories are quite amusing in their own way. Never mind your head, what about my horse and cart? Is the end of a particular story that I'd never be able to broadcast if Radio 4 lived for another 5,000 years. There are other Shaggy dog stories which I recall. Mr. Ross Noble himself specialises in telling me the occasional joke, and I think to myself, oh, that is a wonderful, constructed piece of storytelling.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and Paul Merton, Tony Hawks, Liza Tarbuck, they're all equal in first place, and only 1 point behind, or 2, is Ross Noble. Lisa, your turn to begin, and we'd like you to take the subject now of celebrity status. Will you talk on that subject starting now?
When you've gained a certain notoriety or fame and have got the admiration...
Ross, challenge.
Oh, there's a little bit of hesitation.
There was a little bit of hesitation.
Yeah,
yes.
not much, though, and I feel bad for doing it.
I know.
Give me it, I'll stumble, she can have it back. Can't say fairer than that.
You have 55...
I know this is technically match fixing, but, you know, I'm a very generous man.
Well, you never know, you see, I might get in first and mess your plan up.
Well, I might not stumble over the words, so bring it on, big man.
55 seconds, Ross, on celebrity status, starting now. Paul, you came in first.
I'm sorry, what was the arrangement? Hesitation.
It was hesitation, yes. But he intended Lisa to get it.
But she can have it if she wants.
All right.
No, you carry on.
I'll have it.
Lovely.
All right. So, Paul, you tell us something about celebrity status. 37 seconds, starting now.
I was at a snack bar in Tooting Broadway in 1987 when a man asked me for my autograph, and I suppose that put a... Oh. Did you get
Tony
that?
challenge.
Yeah, I think it was hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes. Couldn't remember the man's name.
So what, have you two got an arrangement?
Yeah, we have.
Okay. 26 seconds are available, Tony. Celebrity status, starting now.
I was on Get Fresh many years ago in a band called Morris Minor and the Majors, and this girl rushed...
Paul challenge.
Sorry, celebrity status. I've written it down. Celebrity status, isn't it, Nicholas?
But you don't have to have a high status, you can have a low status.
Oh.
What?
He's right.
A low celebrity status.
That's how I get invited on this show.
Well, that's an insult to the rest of us, isn't it? I have to beg.
At least you were invited, I just turned up.
He brings his own chair. He fools him every time.
No, I like to be fair. I gave Paul the
Yes,
benefit
that's
of the doubt before against you. Yeah. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt now against Paul. And so, say you have 20 seconds to take over celebrity status, starting now.
This feminine teenager rushed up to me, said, "Can you get me Bross's autograph over there?"
Ross challenge.
Repetition of Get Fresh.
Yes.
Ooh, nice.
Yes. Ross, you challenge first. Correct challenge. 15 seconds. Celebrity status, starting now.
I remember as a child watching the popular Gaz top-fronted children's show, and when who should come on but Tony Hawks in a band called Morris Minor and the Majors. I remember thinking at the time...
Tony challenge.
2 remembers.
Yes, you remember too much.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't remembered it. If you've heard the song.
Tony!
I'm joking.
There are 4 seconds for you, Tony, on celebrity status, starting now.
Barack Obama. Could you imagine anyone more famous than that?
So Tony Hawks, with points in the round, including one for speaking as the whistle went, has moved forward. He's now in the lead, just ahead of Paul Merton, further ahead of Liza Tarbuck and then Ross Noble in that order. And I've just heard we're moving into the final round. I expected more than that, actually. And Paul, it's actually round with you to begin again. So would you take the next subject, which is elephants? Tell us something about elephants in just a minute, starting now.
I made a programme in India about 3 years ago now, and there I met some... Emmental. I mean, some Emmental. And that's not the subject at all, is it?
Lisa, you challenged.
Yeah, it was hesitation.
We call that hesitation.
Yeah.
I just thought they were massive beasts coming out of the water right next to you. Oh, it's frightening.
Yes.
I was in the river with them. Oh, dreadful.
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, save it,
They
Paul.
were being scrubbed, you know.
You might want to use it
Oh, yeah, I
again.
might get it again, yeah.
55 seconds, Lisa, for you on elephants, starting now.
I saw lots of Indian elephants too. The thrilling one.
Paul, do you get it
Mild
again?
hesitation.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yes.
It was hesitation. So you
think
got
my
him with
tongue's swollen
52
up.
seconds.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. You're a sucker fisherman's friend.
Thanks very much.
Julian Clary, 1983. 1984, 1985.
Paul, you're talking about one of your best friends, right?
indeed.
52 seconds on elephants, starting now.
Scrubbing between their toes, and I looked down at this massive creature in the water, and it suddenly rose up in front of me, and it reached incredible height, very scary, looking straight into its eye. Later on that day, I saw another elephant. There was another elephant.
Lisa,
I
tell
think
us.
you were going to go into Nelly the elephant.
And I
with
was,
another
yeah.
elephant,
I can neither say, I can't say elephant or the word immediately adjacent to it.
It's the law.
Yeah.
So Lisa's adjacent to you, and she got in first on elephants. She's got 37 seconds if she wants it on the subject, starting now.
I saw a herd of elephants guarding a baby.
Paul challenge.
Thor a herd?
Oh my God.
Thor a herd of elephants? Deviation. Wonderful actress. Don't give me the benefit of the doubt.
No, what I'll do, I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruptions. But she wasn't actually deviating from the subject, so there are 35 seconds available still with you, Lisa, on elephants, starting now.
The gang was guarding this baby elephant because they're very protective as a race of animals. What that means, I've absolutely no idea. I'm just carrying on.
Paul challenge.
It's deviation of species, aren't they?
Yeah,
rather than
species, not a race.
I couldn't think of that word.
No, it's not.
I wasn't daring myself with the speech, the beginning
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Thor a herd.
Are you two having a finish your conversation now?
Yeah, we're happy.
You're having a little
in the mood
chat.
for a chat, yeah.
You're having a little chat there.
Got any biscuits?
Right, that was lovely anyway. 26 seconds, Paul, with you, elephants, starting now.
They say they never forget I once crossed one at Whipsnade Zoo. 15 years later, while potholing in Derbyshire, there he was, coming towards me. He's angry, trunk.
Ross challenge.
Coming towards.
What about?
Repetition of coming. There was one coming towards him before.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it was.
Drag.
When he
I
was
wasn't
in
listening,
India,
to be
that's right. You lifted up and he was coming towards you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, listen, Ross. Right.
I've actually got an elephant in an earpiece. Told me that. They never forget.
So, you've got 18 seconds, Ross, on elephants, starting now.
I had a bit of an incident with an elephant recently. I found myself in Africa and I was in a tent and I heard rustling just outside the flaps and I thought it was my mate mucking around. Well, I shouted naturally and got quite aggressive. I threw open the opening of the...
Shame, there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation. Yes. We wanted to know what happened, because there's only 3 seconds to go. Tell us.
I was killed.
You mean this is a repeat?
So what we do now is give Ross a bonus point for that remark. But Paul has the subject because it was the correct challenge. 3 seconds available, Paul. Elephants starting now.
Nellie the elephant packed her trunk and said...
Right, so that was the final situation. Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. Right, so what we have is an interesting situation. Lisa Tarbuck and Ross Noble are equal in second place, but equal in first place with the same number of points, Paul Merton and Tony Hawk. So we say, Paul and Tony, you are joint winners this week. Right. It only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous, delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Lisa Tarbuck, Tony Hawks and Ross Noble. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so magnificently when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, to Lucia Galani. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we are grateful to this lovely audience here at the Radio Theatre for cheering us on our way magnificently. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. But don't forget to tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yay!
Join Nicholas at the same time next week when he'll be joined by panellists Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Graham Norton and Sir Terry Wogan, who'll be making his first appearance on the show. That's next Monday evening at 6:30.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away once more, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 dynamic, wonderful, highly strung human beings who are going to play this game, and they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary, and seated on my left, Graham Norton, and beside Graham, someone who's never played the game before. It's a great pleasure to welcome Terry Wogan. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me with the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we'll begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject here is the history of the world. A nice broad subject for starters. Give us some of your thoughts. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, it started on a Wednesday. On Thursday, God created kittens, lampposts, and Jar Zed Gabor. It was a very busy afternoon for him. The history of the world, the history of life itself. If we look around, we can see that we've all evolved from a common form. Nicholas Parsons. He is the stencil for the rest of humankind. When we look at him, we realise all humanity has stemmed from that beautiful jacket.
Graham, challenge.
Repetition of stemmed.
Yes. You have a correct challenge, so you get a point for that, and you take over the subject. And there are 35 seconds available. The history of the world, starting now.
As a highly strung person, I find the history of the world very worrying. Bad things happen. Luckily, growing up in Ireland, they didn't teach us the history of the world because it didn't matter. We just studied the things that had occurred in our own homeland, in mostly
Paul, challenge.
Sadly, hesitation.
Yes, it was a hesitation, yes. Right? So, Paul, you've got 16 seconds, and you've got a point, of course, for that. Correct challenge. You took back the subject, the history of the world, starting now.
Of course, no history of the world can be in any way accurate. They say that history is often written by the victors. The poor losers in any battle never give their account because, of course, they have been vanquished. So...
Julian, challenge.
Repetition of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. You did say of course before.
Yeah.
So, Julian, well listened.
We need a Bakerloo line.
So, Julian, we're going to hear from you on the subject. And you've got 5 seconds. The history of the world, starting now.
The History of the World in 100 Objects was a series on Radio 4 that I found.
Right. Well, at the end of that round, Julian's got 2 points, because whoever's speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and Paul and Graham have got 1. Terry's yet to score, but he's going to begin the next round for us. Terry, a subject I'm sure close to your heart, a limerick. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
There was a young lady called Gloria.
I must say, were you going to be playing a record at that point?
That's what they call an artistic pause.
Yeah. I don't know whether you've ever heard the game before. That is the longest pause we've ever had.
Pausing was what I was famous for.
But Julian challenged you. He let you go for quite a long time.
I don't want the subject. I was just by way of chipping you along.
So you're going to be very generous and give it back to me?
I am, indeed.
All right. So, Terry, you've still got 55 seconds.
There was a young lady named Gloria.
Graham, you've challenged.
It was repetition, but he can have it back. Listen, I'm just pointing out you can't say Gloria twice.
When you said you were going to be kind to me, I had no idea it was going to be this kind of kind. There was a young lady.
Now, wait a minute. In the show, I would say you start now, so we can start the stopwatch at the same time. So there are 54 seconds
so
available.
Many rules.
All right. The subject is Gloria. No, it isn't. It's
limerick.
I think it's become Gloria. Anyway, Terry, you have 54 seconds. Your time, a limerick, this time starts now.
I hate this bloody show.
Paul, you challenge.
Well, you can't ignore it after a while. It was a pause.
There was a...
But I'm quite prepared to have Terry have the subject back.
Well, look, Terry, we're going to give you one more chance. Because they've all given it back to you now, so it's equal.
I don't want your pity.
No, all we'd like a few words from you, that's all.
There was a young lady.
No, wait. You have 50 seconds. A limerick, starting now.
There was a young lady named Gloria.
No, you can't do that.
But
you can't repeat Gloria.
It won't work. We can't use Gloria.
No.
You don't understand the rule.
I've got a solution. One of us says the first line, you give Terry the subject, he says the second line, and we're up and running.
Okay.
No, look, you've all given it back to him once. This time, I'm going to take it away from him, because otherwise we'll never get the show going at all.
You swine.
So, Julian, you buzzed in then, and you've got 47 seconds, a limerick starting now.
There was a young lady from Ealing who had a peculiar feeling. She lay on her back. Now, the next bit I can't repeat. So you can fill in the gaps yourselves.
Terry, you challenge.
Cowardice.
Let's hear about Gloria.
But you see, Terry, he also hesitated, didn't he?
He did.
Right, well, they're well listened. You've got a point for that. You have 33 seconds. You take back a limerick. Don't tell us about Gloria, please. A limerick starting now.
I shall move to the second line. Who slept with Sir Gerald du Maurier. Jack Hilton, Jack Payne, Sir Gerald again, and the band of the Waldorf Astoria. I personally come from a little town of that name on the banks of the Shannon. I was born in 18 Elm Park, Ennis Road, in that town. And if you walk down O'Connell Street...
So Terry Wogan was actually speaking then on the subject when the whistle went. He gains that extra point. So Terry, you've got 2 points now.
And
you're just behind Julian Clary. And Derek gave us a limerick in the show. This was a time, 33 years ago at least, and, you had to be a bit more circumspect. But his limerick went like this. A gay young man from Scone took a lesbian up to his room. They sat on the bed, and then each of them said, now who does what and with which and to whom? But when Derek told it then 33 years ago, it was kept in and nobody cut it out, right? Julian, you had a correct challenge. No, it's your turn to begin. The subject is by My Name in Lights, Julian. 60 seconds starting now.
I suppose anyone in show business dreams of having their name in lights. It first happened to me in 1991 when I appeared at the Aldwych in a show called Camping on a Shoestring. Unfortunately, they spelt my name with an E. Well, I was furious. I phoned up the producer and I had what is generally known as a theatrical tantrum down the phone. And the next day, when I minced into work, it had been corrected, and there was my name in all its glory, correctly informing the public of where I was appearing. And I don't like the look you're giving me from my right, and if you kindly desist, I could continue.
Right, Terry, you pressed your buzzer. Well done. What was your challenge?
Mine is a subtle buzzer.
Yes.
My challenge was... I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about.
Well, no, but that's not one of the rules of Just a Minute.
I know, but I'm new here.
Yeah, I know. But you can only have hesitation, repetition...
Well, I think hesitation.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Well... So you have the subject now, My Name in Lights. You have 25 seconds, and your time starts now.
Well, as the television series told us, fame costs. People think that because you're famous... that you can get a really good seat in a restaurant. This is entirely untrue, because most of the people...
Paul Jones.
Well, it's a hesitation, but they're getting shorter. There's definitely real improvement happening. Definitely.
Well, you may have hesitated a lot, but you've said far more words than most people have in the show this time. Right. So well done. Well done, Terry. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas.
Paul, correct challenge. You have 10 seconds. My name in lights, starting now.
I've always wanted my name in lights. That's why I've changed it to the Post Office Tower. And if you look at the London skyline, you'll see it there blazing across the horizon like a beacon.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's equal in the lead with Terry Wogan and Julian Clary, and Graham is just behind them. And Graham, we'd like you to begin the next round.
Oh, yes. Go
The subject is glued to the box. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The subject, glued to the box, is, I feel, a little direct. I might have preferred when practical jokes in cricket go tragically wrong. I think that's more subtle and less offensive to listeners around the world. As a highly strung person, I take these things very...
Terry challenged.
That's the second time you've told us you're a highly strung person. That's repetition.
It was in another round, though.
But that was in another round.
You can't be expected to know all the rules.
He said highly strung in the other round, Terry. Hasn't he, in this
yes,
round?
I know that now.
Right. So it was an incorrect challenge, Graham. You have a point for that, and you have 40 seconds glued to the box, starting now.
I feel sorry for people born now because, of course, they can't be glued to a box, for televisions are no longer boxes. They are mere flat screens. You would be glued to the thing. I don't know what it would be called. Another word, I can't say it again because I have, but the main thing I feel I'm really trying to get at here, and I don't want to be swayed from my argument, is that...
Paul, you
hesitation.
Eventually, yes.
Yes, I think there was.
14 seconds are still available, Paul, and you have glued to the box, starting now.
I saw a statistic the other day that says the average viewing time of Britain's...
Julian.
Does that come under hesitation?
That comes under hesitation, yes. So you have another point, and you have the subject. 8 seconds, glued to the box, starting now.
There's a marvellous programme on every day at 4 o'clock on Channel 4 where people open...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of 4.
Yes.
Shame.
Should I have kept quiet about that one?
Yes, it was 4 o'clock.
Was
in
4, Channel 4,
you
yes.
see.
Yes.
You got me there.
Listen, Paul, yes. And you've got 4 seconds to go. And you've got glued to the box, Paul, starting now.
Glued to the box. I spent my early years watching...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point and has now taken the lead ahead of the other three. Paul, it's your turn to begin. So would you take this subject now, the dictionary? Tell us something about the dictionary, 60 seconds starting now.
I used a dictionary the other day. I heard the word antediluvian, and I thought I'd known that particular sentence or... Oh, God.
Julian, yes.
Hesitation again.
Yes.
Dreadful.
So 52 seconds, Julian. The dictionary starting now.
Every desk should have a dictionary placed on it, and you can flick through and discover new and exciting words. Obfuscated, I inquired the other day, means generally...
Paul.
It's hesitation.
Yes, it was. So you've got the dictionary back again, and you have 42 seconds starting now.
It means old-fashioned, or indeed before the flood. And I had no idea that it was as amusing as that. So if you look up various words in, say, the Oxford English Dictionary, or indeed Webster's, a marvellous dictionary, that one, because it's sold mainly to people who are illiterate, and they have got very low standards, and so it's very cheap to buy. There are no letters, for example, listed under B. There are just simple A, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
Terry, you've challenged.
Deviation.
Yes, definitely, deviation. Because if you, in Webster's dictionary, there are B's.
I know.
I
That
know
was
there are.
nonsense. Why I was allowed to go on for as long as I did.
Terry spotted it immediately, didn't you, Terry?
Yeah.
Right.
I did. Unfortunately, I've forgotten the subject.
I always give you the subject before you begin.
Bless you.
You've got another point for that, Terry. You have 10 seconds. The dictionary starting now.
The dictionary is merely a selection of words that are identified, conjugated, parsed, and selected for the...
So Terry Wogan was then speaking as a whistle when gained. That extra point is now equal with Julian Clary in second place, and they're all three of them just ahead of Graham Norton. Terry, it's your turn to begin. Oh, the subject, a great catch. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
A great catch can be translated in two ways. It can relate to the fishing, or it can be, in my case, a personal thing. For I was known as a great catch. In Ireland, my wife, when we became affianced, was known as the luckiest woman in Ireland.
Julian Challenge.
Repetition of Ireland.
You mentioned Ireland before.
Damn it.
And yes. And Julian, collect challenge. So you have another point. You have 41 seconds. A great catch starting now.
I've been a very keen sea fisherman since about the age of 13, when I would teeter on the cliff top with my rod in my hand and reel in whatever I found. Ooh, what a whopper, my friend Hector used to declare. And indeed, I had a gift. The biggest catch I ever achieved was 10 pounds and 12 inches. It hangs as we speak above my mantelpiece and is the envy of everyone who sees it. Occasionally, when I'm spring cleaning, I put it out on the front lawn for a bit of an airing, and all who walk by gasp in admiration. So there we have it. I have been keen on all kinds of...
So Julian took the subject with great aplomb and panache. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. We could be apropos the last round. A voyage of discovery. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I'd love to go on a voyage of discovery. Unfortunately, they don't have en-suite facilities on the kind of ships that might take you to these far-flung places. So instead, I'm interpreting this subject as every time I leave the house, it's a voyage of discovery. Little did I think this morning, as I set out about my ways, that Terry Wogan would be waiting for me round about 7:30 of an evening. Hi there, I declared. He gave me a bit of an adventure. And
Paul Chalice.
There was a slight hesitation.
There was a slight hesitation, yes. So we give it to you, Paul, and 32 seconds available. A voyage of discovery starting now.
I remember watching television when I was younger and seeing the film Jason and the Argonauts with particular... Oh, God, what's the name?
Anyway,
my
Graham,
radio career in a complete
Graham
tailspin.
got in first. What was your challenge, Graham?
Hesitation.
That's right.
Hesitation.
A voyage of discovery is with you now, Graham, and you have 27 seconds available starting now.
When I was a waiter in this great city of London, most evenings involved a voyage of discovery, as I would fall asleep on the night bus and wake up in various spots in the environs. Sometimes I would go past places twice.
Julian Chance.
Repetition of places.
You went to places, yes.
Did I really?
I heard that.
No, I'm sure I did. Yes.
Well, I'm afraid you did say it.
I will go to
the audience
BBC.
heard it too,
Listen
didn't they?
again, feature. There will be letters.
Julian, 9 seconds for you. A voyage of discovery starting now.
I do believe in a former life I was deported for stealing a bag of oranges, and I ended up on this ship on my way to Australia.
Graham Challenge.
This is nonsense.
You don't believe he went on a
It's
ship?
deviation.
In a previous life.
Where were the oranges? Why are you stealing oranges? Who'd steal an orange?
I was living in Spain at the time.
They're everywhere. Why would you steal them?
I was called Jose.
I will give you the benefit of the doubt because you did establish he was in another life. So you've got 2 seconds, Julian. A voyage of discovery starting now.
I had to share a bunk bed with...
So Julian Clary was then speaking to Whistle Wen, gained that extra point and is now taking the lead ahead of Paul Merton, Terry Wogan and Graham Norton in that order. Graham, it's your turn to begin. We'd like to take the subject of how I'd like to be remembered. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I would like to be remembered as the man who finally got the British space programme off the ground and cured all known diseases. Sadly...
Paul.
Hesitation.
So Paul, correct challenge. How I'd like to be remembered. 50 seconds starting now.
Unlike my previous 3 attempts, I'd like to be remembered as somebody that could occasionally play just a minute and obey the rules of hesitation, repetition and deviation and be able to utter a sentence followed by another one until the 60 seconds has elapsed. That, for me, would be something I could take to my grave, happy in the knowledge that I was able to speak at last fluently
Graham challenge.
Now, is this picky? Repetition of able.
Ooh. Right at
Is
the
that too
beginning,
bad? Am I being horrible? Is that vile?
No, very clever, very clever. So, 28 seconds. How I'd like to be remembered, starting now.
How I'd like to be remembered in the long term is not at all. In the short term, as...
I'm
an idiot. That was Harikari.
Yeah.
Yes, well... Anyway, Paul, you got it back.
Repetition of term.
Yes, we know that. Right, 23 seconds. How I'd like to be remembered, Paul, starting now.
They could occasionally look at my CV, I suppose. I started in 1987 in a show that I did for Channel 4. Then Whose Line Is It Anyway, followed by Have I Got News for You, Room 10.
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
No, he paused so that he wouldn't say one again.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
But no, it wasn't enough. I gave you the benefit of the doubt last time. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul on this occasion. No, you didn't fully hesitate, Paul. You have 11 seconds. How I'd like to be remembered, starting now.
As a national hunt jockey from Uruguay. I think this is very unlikely, so I won't be remembered as that person. But if I was given a choice, I would say to the great British public here tonight, when I'm gone, remember me in your hearts as the man who had a whistle and...
So Paul Merton, with points in the round, including one for speaking as the whistle went, has leapt forward into the lead again, ahead of Julian Clary, just 2 points of difference, then Terry Wogan, and then Graham Norton in that order. And Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject now is Charles Dickens. Tell us something about Charles Dickens in this game, starting now.
Sorry,
I should explain to our...
confused. We'll shut up.
That's all right. Well, what was your confusion?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I should explain to our listeners, Terry and Graham are having little chats amongst themselves on the left-hand side of
Honestly, you're like Quelch.
You Quelch?
Billy Bunter's headmaster.
Oh, right. I thought it was an Irish word for belch or something.
Don't start poking fun at the Irish.
Otherwise, Terry and I will plot, and this table will become independent.
And possibly divided.
Now we're going to get back to just a minute with Paul Merton, and the subject is Charles Dickens. Paul, 60 seconds starting now.
Charles Dickens was a born storyteller. By that I don't mean that he emerged from the womb saying, as the grey clouds of mist descended on London town towards the house of Gregory Trimwicket, the big fog that had evaded the society that he knew as large had... It was the first draft.
Well, I'd call it deviation, veering away from nothing that Charles Dickens ever wrote to general what comes under the heading of mumbo-jumbo.
I got the impression he was trying to use sort of Dickensian language to create a mood.
Yeah.
Oh, you're being very unkind to me today.
Oh, I gave Paul the benefit of the doubt last time. You can have the benefit of the doubt this time. 43 seconds, Julian, on Charles Dickens, starting now.
Charles Dickens was prolific. There was no...
I thought he was British. Deviation, he wasn't prolific, whatever that word was. I was interrupted for that.
No. Paul, we'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, but he wasn't actually deviating, so he gets a point for being interrupted, Julian, and you carry on with 40 seconds to go on Charles Dickens, starting now.
Not far from where we were all sitting at this very moment is a road, and in that road...
Graham.
Hesitation.
Yes. 35 seconds. Charles Dickens, with you, Graham, starting now.
Charles Dickens, as well as being a novelist, was also the host of the popular panel game, What the Dickens? Celebrity panelists
Terry
were trying
challenged
to...
you.
Oh, sorry.
No, I hadn't.
Well, your light came on.
I can't help the glimmer. It's called star quality. I never touched it. Never touched it.
And you've got 27 seconds to go on Charles Dickens. Graham, starting now.
Teams would guess what Victorian urchin children were suffering from. It was a sort of X factor for disease, if you can imagine such a thing.
Terry challenge.
This is mumbo-jumbo.
It's certainly deviating from what Charles Dickens did. He never did a show called What the Dickens. They didn't have those sort of shows in Dickens' time.
Bless you for pointing that out.
Terry,
Yes.
you've got back in again with 19 seconds to go. Charles Dickens starting now.
If Charles Dickens had been alive today, he would, in fact, be doing a quiz show called What the Dickens.
Graham's challenge.
Therefore, I wasn't speaking mumbo-jumbo at all.
No, the difference is, Graham, you said he did do a programme when he was
All right.
alive. So Terry has another point, and he has 10 seconds. He has Charles Dickens starting now.
Charles Dickens is one of my favourite authors. David Copperfield, Great Expectations.
The list goes on.
No, unfortunately, the list didn't go on.
It might have, if given half a chance.
I think I know the challenge.
It was hesitation.
It was hesitation.
Why does everybody have such a fast mouth in this show? On Radio 2, we were much more stately. Radio 4 is a hooligans network.
Have you heard that show Up You and Yours?
And Poetry, Please.
Yeah.
There was a young lady named Gloria.
We never did hear what happened to her, did we?
Paul, you've got him with 1 second to go.
Oh, blimey.
Yes. Charles Dickens starting now.
Great Expectations!
Because we've had so much fun and we've laughed so much, a lot of which has been generated by you, Terry, which means a joy having you as a...
You're patronising me again.
No, we're just saying what fun you brought to the show as a newcomer, first time.
It's been exciting, and it's been demeaning.
And it's been
Isn't
exhilarating.
that the best?
And it's also been exhilarating. Let me give you the final situation. Graham Norton, you were just alongside Terry in third place.
Oh, okay.
Just ahead of you, in second place, was Julian Clary, but out in the lead, 2 points ahead of Julian, was Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are the winner this week.
Oh,
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only means to say thank you to these four fine and delightful and wonderful players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Graham Norton and Terry Wogan. And also we thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately. And we're grateful to our producer, to Lucia Galani. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing and fantastic game. And from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you for tuning in. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute! Yay!